Connected to the computer.
Call the regular meeting of the City of Chattahoochee Hills City Council for January 10th, 2023 to order. Let the record reflect that all council members are present for tonight's meeting. I'd like to remind anyone who wants to make a public comment tonight to fill out a yellow comment card. You'll find those on. You'll find them on the table outside the door. When you've handed them in, or when you filled them out, please hand them to the city attorney. If you have your cell phone, please make sure you've got the ringer turned off, and if you would, please stand for the pledge.
Such a historic moment.
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
I cannot imagine how awesome that is.
First item tonight is approval of the meeting agenda. Do we have any changes or additions? I don't know. All right, can I get a motion in a second, please, to approve tonight's meeting agenda?
Make a motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda.
We have a motion in a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of adopting the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
The agenda stands approved. Next up is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of December 1st. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes, please? Motion in second.
Make a motion, we approve December 1st minutes. Second.
We have a motion in a second. Any changes or updates anybody needs with that one? If not, all those in favor of adopting the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Those minutes stand approved. We are about to have Commissioner Arrington here. He had asked to come and just say a word to the audience and to the council. He's running late from a court date. He's an attorney that still practices, so he will be here shortly, and we will work him in when he shows up. I was going to do that in presentations, but in the meantime, let's move on to public comment, which is a time for citizens to share information with the mayor and city council, provide their input and opinions on any matter not scheduled for its own public hearing during tonight's meeting. When your name is called, please come forward, speaking to the microphone directly to the council, first stating your name and address for the record. People are allowed 3 minutes for their personal remarks. And again, we have a public hearing tonight. So if you want to comment on the subject of the public hearing, please make that clear so that Rick knows when to call you. Rick, do we have any public comment?
We do, Mr. Mayor. Robert Richardson.
Robert Richardson, 9425 Hutchinson Ferry Road. When this city was formed, most residents had no choice but to be part of the Chattahoochee Hills because my land was on the border. Because my land, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Because my land was on the border, I had a choice to join Palmetto or Chat Hills. At the time, I thought I made the right choice. As time goes by, I think maybe I made the wrong choice. As many problems as Palmetto has, they are consistent with the way they do things and don't try to change laws and zoning every time a big shot of money comes to town. Tonight, we're going to hear a first read to change the UDC again, less than a year after the city paid an outside consultant to come in and rewrite it to go along with the mayor's vision for the city. But the one thing not on the change list is this ridiculous 20-acre lot size. The mayor and the council keep saying the city wants to maintain a 70-30 conservation rate. Yet this does not apply to landowners. The rate of conservation for landowners owning 25, 50, 75 acres is 96% if you do the math. Far off the 70% conservation the city claims. This is a ridiculous law. It does nothing but devalue landowners' land. The law was voted by the city council, who combined on less than 10 acres of land in Chattahoochee Hills. You want landowners to not be able to do anything with their land so people can drive by going back to their hamlet and claim they live in the country. Now, I don't want to develop my land, but I also don't want my rights taken away from me. I stand here and demand my rights and every other landowner in Chattahoochee Hills rights be restored. I also want to know whose idea it is to change the UDC again. The UDC prevented the movie studio from being allowed the first time they applied. Now the city plans to change the UDC to meet all the needs of the studio, including 80-foot buildings and parking decks, even after the public made it clear this is not what they wanted. So once again, my question is, who is behind planning these changes to the UDC that will allow the studio to come in? This is not a coincidence. The city council needs to start listening to the people they represent, and the people of Chet Hills need to be aware of what's happening around them. You cannot continue to make changes every time a developer comes along and offers the city a fire truck.
Thank you. Any more?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, next up is staff reports, and we'll start with a financial update from the city manager.
Got it. Looks that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, thank, right.
Okay.
Staff, members of the community, citizens, appreciate you guys coming again. The financials, we're 50% through the fiscal year. I know there's a lot of numbers to look at tonight. You're probably pretty tired from the game last night, unless you went to sleep at halftime since, game was over pretty much at that time, right? But 50% through the fiscal year. This, even though this, these numbers were actually today's the 10th, but these numbers are through December 31st. And you'll see the copy you have, I put a new copy in front of you because what was brought up in our work session is a valid point with the motor vehicle tax and the ad valorem tax, two different taxes associated with TAVT, the ad valorem tax. And so we fixed that so that way they're more consistent with the money's coming in. So we had 5,000 budgeted for motor vehicle tax, and it's at 3,325, and same with motor vehicle ad valorem taxes. We budgeted 77,000 and we're 59%, with 45,000 in there. So we're good in that category. But as I always like to do, I look down at the percentages and say, okay, we're we 50%, that's where we need to be. But a lot of things come in at different times of the year, as you know, where we collected 100% of our projected tax revenue. Insurance premium tax, you see we're 117%. That's just because it came in higher. That's a harder one to predict. So it came in a little bit higher than what we anticipated. We've got our federal grant had come in, our LMIG grants come in. So you see those are at 100% already. Down at here's the interesting one I find out of all the revenues is the interest. Because we budgeted lower for interest because the interest rates are, as you know, check your savings account, is very low. We're not getting much interest. But we have more money in the bank because of the federal grants and such. So there's more interest that we've received. So you see the interest is pretty high there, not crazy high, it's just higher than we projected. And other revenues, we've got just revenues we didn't anticipate are coming in. And I wanted you to just point out the proceeds from the capital lease, which is $325,000. That's what we got in a check from GMA because we financed the fire truck we bought. So if you look down at the capital expenditures at the bottom, you'll see 361,000. Well, 325 of that is the truck. So it's kind of a wash there, but we have to track it in both categories. So our fund balance remains high at $4.2 million. And the other financing sources we track, as you know, is hotel motel funds and Peace Plus. They're a little bit lower than 50%, but they're right at that mark. So we're okay with that. And going down into our expenditures, the only one that's over, you'll see, is like non-departmental insurance, because we've been paying that, risk management. I think we have one more payment. I have to check, I'm not sure, but in a risk management, we have one more payment, but we did have, they do what they call an audit, and they audit how many employees we have versus what we had before and salaries and so forth. But sometimes that will come in a little higher than we budgeted. The general administration, that you'll see that's 80%, it's over 50%, and that's because of we did some legal fees for local option sales tax, and we also paid audit up front. So our audit is paid already in full, so that's where the chunk of that. So we're not going to get billed anymore. So again, some of these, it's easier to track. Obviously, these were monthly, but things come in early, things come in late. So that's why some of those numbers are the way they are. But again, at 51% of the fiscal year, we're only about 30% through our expenditures, but we've collected 100% of our revenues. And I say 100% of revenues because that's also including our fund balance and such. But we're looking good with our finances, 50% through the fiscal year. I will need to come to you next month with budget amendments. It's not that we need budget amendments, we're in good shape. It's more of an auditing trail that we have to do budget amendments at least once a year. I prefer twice, like we did last year. We did it in January, we did it again in June, which helped with our audit. So we'll do that again. We'll do them in February, and we'll do them again in June, right before the end of the fiscal year. So be happy to answer any questions you might have specifically pertaining to this month's financials. If not,
Was the lost money, what is that, up 10, 12 a month?
we get, let's see, I have to go back and look, see what we get monthly. I can find out exactly what it is. I know that T-Splosh ranges between $40,000 a month, local option sales tax. It varies. I'll see where we at. Let me pull this up here. Yeah, we're about 43, well, you see 44%. We got $327,000. We budget for $750. So just do the math out of 6 months and we get about 50,000 plus a month. Month off sales tax. Yeah, it is, yeah. So the more money they spend out in the county, we appreciate it here in Chet Hills. And also, the newsletter is posted online, so if anybody wanted to see the newsletter, as you know, I do it every month, and it's just an extra little piece of financial news that some things are of interest to people, and it breaks it down a little bit more in more detail, but also in more of a what I call a citizens report. It's easier to read than just a spreadsheet.
Great, thanks, Robbie.
You bet.
All right, next up is a report from Fire Chief Greg Brett.
Mayor, council, citizens, friends, this report looks at all of 2022, broken down for you, the number of calls by the month, the totals for the year, for the primary type of calls, and giving you an idea too at the very last column there, what percent those constitute in terms of our total activities by the month or by the year. I always like looking at this and looking at how then that trend line down in the 6-year service metrics, how that shows some change for us. And so I think if you looked at these lines, if you could go out 10 years, you would see that they're really more of a trend, a flat or trending upward than you would see in the more short term here, where they seem to turn down. We did go through a correction a few years ago, which is the reason that I only go back 6 years, because statistics were not, how we were reporting was not well defined. And I tried to standardize that. The notables, well, they speak for themselves. And the only other two other notables, I threw in the CERT thing there. I wanted to say again, a good word about Nan Huffmaster Guffey helping to get the CERT training off the ground. We have been approved for the grant through AFCEMA, and that's going to help us initiate classes on February the 20th. We've got a flyer for that. We're going to hopefully finish having that posted to the website tomorrow, that people can go ahead and quickly register. There's only 10 seats. And that has to do with a federal requirement in terms of span of control, in terms of staffing and teacher and students, and just about what we can handle too, in more of a practical way of thinking. The other thing that I didn't put in here, but I'd be remiss in not saying, is that the movie industry has a huge effect on us in the last year. It may be a statistic I'm going to begin to need to track even more and give you the numbers, but we are weekly involved, it seems of late, with inspecting sites, reviewing applications for the breadth of what will be happening on a production site, and then what they are required to do according to Fire and Life Safety Code, and relative to meeting the requirements of alcohol, tobacco, firearm, and then providing pretty frequently fire safety officers. I think there's probably been a shift within the union and in the insurance industry that now requires them to have such a person there. And so that's an advantage for our personnel who are off duty, because they're making that event rate. And but it is hard to keep up with their requests. Because they often come to us very late in the day, as they did today, 15 minutes before 5, wanting someone for tomorrow. So we have provisions for that, but nevertheless, movie industry takes a lot of time from us, more than you might realize. I'll kind of wrap up by telling you that on the last bullet there under 2022 notables, it says commercial plan review moved from paper to the electronic environment. Well, that's almost true, but we haven't entirely figured out how to use this large scale screen and software that helps us review the plans. We can look at them, looks great. Still learning how to use that software. And for a while longer, we still like to touch paper plans. But we're evolving.
Chief Brett, appreciate the showing from each month, the totals on that for 2022. Maybe next month or in a separate email, could you give just the total for the year before so we can kind of.
Right. Normally what I'll do is I have in the past come along in the month of February and given you, after I've kind of closed and wrapped everything up, I'll give you, that kind of year to year comparison. If you look here, you could see on the lines down here, you have some general idea, but those are the totals by the year. If you want to see the individual response types, I mean, that's pretty simple.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
When you say taxing, Greg, I mean, as far as the movie folks go, I mean, I know you're saying there's becoming more and more, I guess, of an issue. I hate to say issues, the word, just more demanding what they want. I mean, eventually, I guess, what do you do? Just assign somebody to deal with them, or?
Well, in the not so recent past, we've been able to have Pat McCarriger, our battalion chief, fire marshal, focus a majority of his time on those plans and any commercial plans and applications that come through. But we've had to move Pat back to the station on a shift to be able to maintain our level of manpower there for routine services. That being said, every application that comes through gets looked at very carefully to be more detailed. Are there stunts? Is there use of fire? Is there use of pyrotechnics? What represents any chance for fire and life safety? And so that issue, and so that means you got to look at the plans, you got to have plenty of conversations, and you frequently got to go visit the site ahead of time, and then during the production setup, and then oftentimes during production. And most all of them now, any production companies coming out of California, some here in Atlanta, make sure to bring in their own catering operations, and we have to look at the mobile kitchens and make sure that no one would get hurt with a fire there.
It's like an extra job for our fire department, and the guy that gets paid is the guy that's off duty when this particular thing goes down.
If I assign an FSO, he has to be an off-duty person. He
So he's
can't
the
be
guy
on
making
regular
the
duty.
money. I'm just sitting there saying that at the end of the day, that sounds like a lot of paperwork being handed to you.
We do all the preliminary up to the moment of having the FSO on the site or whatever it may be, if we got to have a crew out there. And then it's the off-duty people who are making having the advantage of the extra pay.
Charge a pre-site.
We do. The applications come in and they have a fire marshal's fee and inspection fees. So we have a fee structure that we've all sort of developed over the years and perfected. I'd say maybe that, we feel like we're covering it.
The bigger issue for you is just finding enough personnel to
That's
handle
it.
all the things that are going on.
Yeah.
And that's a common refrain at departments around right now.
You have the nationwide shortage of people in this particular industry, but we hope that we can get it in hand. It has to do with people interested in this career, and it has to do with our own pay grades as a city. So I think that being a whole other issue.
Greg, you mentioned that Pat's had to move back into rotation. Is that due to some people leaving, or is that just a workload type issue?
We had sort of a perfect storm in terms of some senior personnel that were only employed with us and not other departments retiring. Okay, so we lost two people in that way. And then all of a sudden we had two people out on FMLA on medical issues, and they work for other departments. Okay, so they're out there, and if they're out on FMLA, they can't work with us. They can't violate the FMLA standards. And then you have the shortage occurring in the other departments. So some of the larger departments have mandatory hold, meaning if they're short on people for a shift, they'll say, I'm sorry, you have to stay and work overtime. And then if they're working for me and I'm counting on them, then now I come up short. So, we're doing our best, and there's been a lot of discussion about some pay grade change, and Robbie has helped us look very carefully at that. And I think that's something you're going to hear more about. And I'm very pleased at where we're headed. I'm just hanging on right now.
Right.
Recently, we had a structure fire on Rivertown not trying to ring a bell, but yours truly was in there, and we were doing it. There's not a lot of departments that the fire chiefs geared up and breathing air and fighting fire. We just do what we got to do here.
Don't go.
Right now, it's more so than other times.
Don't go in as lead hose man.
I was behind the hose man, behind the nozzle man.
Wow.
You think, Greg, maybe you might just need a full-time, like administrative secretary for the fire department with all of that stuff?
I don't think
I
the
hate to see
work,
Pat doing that.
yeah.
He's part of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, we handle all of that. We like touching all that. I don't see that clerical type of support in that way is warranted yet.
You need more firefighters.
I need more firefighters, and if I could get those firefighters in place, and I get my fire marshal and battalion chief who behaves like a deputy chief, so that I can not be so plugged in. Then if I get him back in the office, it'd be a little different. We're headed there. I'm hopeful.
Hey, Chuck lost Damien, he was a great guy.
Yeah. And I couldn't let this report go by without reminding us that we lost one of our people.
I mean, this may be one of those loaded questions, but did the retention bonuses make any difference at all?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The retention bonus caught a couple of people into a full-time status. The recruitment bonus helped us pull a couple of more, and I'm over wading through the bushes in other departments, trying to find who's retiring and who's worth having to get them to come here. And so we hope to add maybe one or two other people right now. And there hasn't been a lot said about the fire candidate program, but we were able to create an arrangement using our ARPA money and with Clayton County to plug some people who want to become firefighters. Young people coming out of high school want to become firefighters. So with the ARPA money, we've put them into fire school in Clayton County, where they'll become both a firefighter and an EMT. They will hatch off about June, and then they owe us service. So that will help in time.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate it.
Anybody else?
Thanks,
Greg. We're gonna take a break in the reports for just a second. Commissioner Arrington has gotten here and had asked for a moment to introduce himself and speak to us. There's been a recent change in the Fulton County districts. So Commissioner Arrington has become our commissioner. And, welcome to Chattahoochee again.
Thank you, Mayor Reed. Certainly glad to be here with you all tonight as your new commissioner for Fulton County, the new District 5. As you know, I was commissioner, and as Mayor Reed stated, the district lines changed, but happy to still be representing the citizens of Fulton County. Happy to have the opportunity to do so. We're in the middle of our budget phase now, so we're asking for your input. Is your Fulton County budget? We're anticipating about $1.3 billion budget for 2023. And again, we are looking for your input on your Fulton County budget. So please feel free to share your thoughts, ideas, priorities for the Fulton County budget. We will likely be voting on that budget on the 18th at our next meeting. So again, I'm here. I'll give you my number is 404-441-8475. That's my county cell phone. And my chief of staff, Dorcia Simmons, is here. And I also have one of my representatives, Jarrell Sharon, here as well. So we are available to you, and please feel free to reach out to us at any time. Also, I did bring some newsletters just to let you all know about some of the activities that we have going on, some of the past activities. Also some of our upcoming calendar of events, and our town halls. So we'll have our town hall coming up on homestead exemptions. Trying to make sure that everyone knows to update their homestead exemptions. You get different exemptions based upon different ages and different services, disability. There are about 18, I think, different exemptions that are available. So don't want to take up too much time, but just wanted to say hello. I'm here for you. If you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or my staff. Again, Jarrell is our community representative, or my community representative for this part of the district. And so he will be the main one helping me get it done, but we're all here to help you in any way that we can.
Congratulations on your reelection.
Thank you.
Just got sworn in, and you guys are going to be getting a call here momentarily from our councilperson who's working on senior services stuff, because there's some things actually that we've been trying to get through the county for a while, have gotten some commitments to follow through, and we're hoping that you can help us with that. So,
And I definitely also am anticipating on putting money in for Bear Creek, like we used to match the same amount that we gave to Chattahoochee. So I want to do that again.
fantastic.
Commissioner, do they need to call you about that, or is that a done deal for you?
It's a done deal for me. Actually, it's, this is I'm gonna ask for the same amount that the other center did.
And we appreciate you coming to the Citizen Day at Bear Creek and making that connection. Appreciate that very much.
Yes, definitely. I say my daughters went to camp there for years, so I felt at home.
Thank you.
Great.
If there are any questions, I'm certainly willing to answer.
Did you leave some of your cards?
Yes, absolutely, definitely.
Great.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right,
Thanks very
thank
much.
you much.
All right, we'll get back to staff reports with a report from the police department. Jim?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you is the December 22 staff report from the police department. A couple things you can see for the month of December, we had 147% increase in calls over the same month in 2021. We're seeing a steady increase in calls or use of our services within the city. We had just a little over 100% increase in 2022 with 2,860 calls for service versus 2021 when we had 1,424 calls. The total officer contacts within the community increased almost 61% from 39,905 from 24,811. So again, we have more people and more people are using our services. One of the issues that we've been having is with animal control and Cocos. Cocos was full of not taking animals, and then Fulton County decided they're not taking them either. They have now agreed to only accept dogs from law enforcement. So if one of your constituents calls animal control, they will not take the animal. We have to come out and call. So again, as we put in place before, I ask that you please spread the word. If you have an animal issue, please call the police department. Let us intervene first, so we can try to find, where the animal lives and return it home before it gets into the system.
I'm confused about that. Aren't we paying for those services?
We are.
And they're not.
They refused. They would come out and tell us they couldn't take the dog and charge us for the call. Well,
So are we at a crisis here? We've got no place to, we've got.
no, we are not. No, we've worked it out with them finally, in that if a police officer calls animal control, they will come and they will take custody of the dog. I'm just saying, there was a point during December when there was nothing, they refused, and there was nothing we could do.
They like a lot of the places around us are full or nearly full.
Yes.
So they're trying to limit.
But the answer to your question is yes, we do have a contract with them. We pay them. And like I said, they would come out here and let us know they couldn't take the dog and charge us for the call anyway.
Getting charged. So maybe if I may, we just not mean to interrupt at all. We are in the process of building a new $35 million animal shelter. To hopefully be able to accommodate the increase in animals that we have. over on foods and industrial, so we just wanted to make sure everyone was.
And I will share, the process we have here is we have the officers interview first before the animals get into the system, because a lot of times they're lost pets. And so we have a kennel out back, and so we try, animal control is our last resort. When we can find a home for an animal, we can no longer care for it. That's when we turn it over to either COCOS or animal control. The animal control, like I said, now is taking dogs from us, so we just had that brief period. That was occurring. And, again, animal calls were up again in December. We had 15.
Yep.
Which is a lot. Every other day. Well, and that's why I'm saying, when you look at,
could be patrolling, we can do something.
well, that's what I'm saying. When you look at the officer contacts, those are the types of things. A lot of times, it's officer initiated, they see the animal loose, will intervene. And then we had a situation on New Year's Eve, we got 2 lies back to back, and that pretty much tied us up for a couple hours.
People drinking on New Year's.
What?
Crazy.
Drinking on New Year's?
On the parkway, yeah, a couple didn't get the word. I'm just saying, with our limited resources, when we get calls, and those are us that we've had a significant increase since I've been here in calls for police services. And,
Is it time for more officers, chief?
well, yes, I'm at full staff. Thanks to the bonus that you approved, I've been able to pay my officers. My concern is when that, and working with Robbie on that, and making sure that our pay and benefits are attractive. We are one of the only agencies in of the 35 law enforcement agencies in Fulton County that are full staff.
It's gonna have an impact on the budget when we get past the.
Yes, sir. Well, I just let you know, we're very fortunate in that regard with police officers. They're hard to find, and it's a very competitive market. Alpharetta, the department I came from, for example, if I went back there as a patrolman today with my qualifications and background, make about $15,000 less than I do as the chief of police here. They are paying, especially the north side. We're not recruiting from the north side, we're recruiting from the south side. And all I'm saying is I appreciate the bonus that you approved because it's helping maintain. I have a great staff of officers. All of you have met them, you've seen the job that they do, you've heard from your constituents, they're doing an amazing job, and we're very fortunate to have them. Any questions for me?
All right, thanks, Jim. Next up is our Public Works Director, Daryl Bowman.
Don't touch the mic. See.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and beautiful citizens of Chattahoochee Hills. Gonna go through mine really quick. We had a lot of rain lately. The gravel roads held up very well. We had sent out crews behind that, fixed the washes. And we didn't have a lot of washes, so I'm grateful for us, but we are scraping roads. Between rains, they look good, all the roads look good, but we are in the process of scraping. When as soon as it dries out, we'll be back getting all the roads back maintaining. And also we are doing the right-of-way cutbacks. That time of year we do every year. We've already done Vernon Grove, going up Rico. We're gonna try to get the whole city before springtime comes. That's #1 priority right now, and keeping the gravel roads maintained. This cold weather, we've shut down the bathrooms like we do at Cocker Mill and at Rico Ball. We do that every year because 6-degree weather is nothing you can do without doing it. But City Hall did have some issues. Well, we lost water under the City Hall. It was not good. We come in late that evening. Greg Brett come and looked, and I come in late, and we spent a lot of hours under City Hall fixing lines. You don't expect under City Hall to have water issues, especially when it gets 6 degrees, you think, because we cover all the speakers and everything properly. Thought we had everything covered, but nobody prepared for 6-degree weather. But we did get it all fixed. We did it internal. We didn't have to call a contractor. We did it all in-house. Water was back on. Been in just a few hours. It's a lot of hard work, but thankful for my staff that we had that experience, and was able to get in there and do what we needed to do. Let's see. Yeah, one other thing I was gonna just talk a little bit more about is that the film industry that Greg was talking about. It's growing. It's more now than I think that I've seen in the 6.5 years I've been here. We're having to make sure that we're working with them, making sure that they're getting what they need. They love our city. The city is beautiful. And that's why they're coming here, and we're trying to do everything we can to work with them, but yet keep them at a bay, so make sure they're not damaging right of ways and gravel roads and such, and working with them. And it's taking a lot more time than we had before, and the development in the city is taking more time. So we're making sure we're in control of erosion control, development, making sure roads are being done right. That have silt problems, silt issues throughout the city, because there's a lot of developers, even residents in Serenbe. And I know a lot of people are confused about our role in Serenbe. We do go in Serenbe. That's our responsibility. Erosion control, make sure Serenbe, any road that's developed in our city has to meet our standards, private or not. So we make sure the roads are built right for the future. Who knows what's going to happen in 20 years? If they are, become our roads. If not, whatever. But that way, Serenbe are getting the roads that they deserve, they're paying for. So, and the erosion control, make sure the silt fence is up, make sure silt ponds are in place. It's just part of our responsibility. So we have a lot going on. It's a lot for my department. I work well with Mike. We've done a lot of things putting together, holding standards, a lot of meetings with mayor and Robbie and all, making sure the standards are what the city, and our Wayne Smith was our engineer. So making sure that everything is working going forward with development, to make sure the standards meet what the citizens deserve in our city. Yes, ma'am.
So you mentioned again that the restrooms at Cochran Mill and Rico are closed for the winter.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you remind me, when you close them for the season, do you temporarily install portable restrooms?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Because being in the nature environment, it's I think what some people call it convenient that you have it. But Rico Ball Field is not a lot of use during, so we do it pretty much every year. But we've even installed a heater in the chase of the restroom to keep it warm, so we can keep them open longer.
Okay.
So if it gets close to freezing, we kind of try to leave them open, but when it gets below that, we do close them, because we have had toilets, and them type of toilets out there, but they're very expensive. And when you had to go in there and dig up the concrete to fix it, so it makes it a big issue. And to put heating and air in there to do, that's a lot of expense that I don't think that we were looking forward to do.
So I have another question about some of the new roads. So are the roads that are built in the developments like Serenbe, are those private roads not maintained by the city? Is it public?
No, ma'am, they're not. If it's a private road, they maintain it. Whoever owns it, like Serenbe, they have to maintain it. But when they build the road, they have to meet the city's, what y'all adopted, what the policy would be, to have to meet the standards set forth for future, just in case.
So the Hutchinson Ferry Road over there by the 3 silos up in that area, there's a new cut through called Serenbe Road, and it looks like it's a paved road. Is that part of the
Are
subject?
you talking about Farmets Road?
I don't know. It just says
Is it-
Serenbe Road,
Yeah,
and it's on
that's what
Hutchinson Ferry. Is it the farmhouse?
Yeah, that's the Serenbe Road, it's Farmets, and they did an outstanding job.
It's beautiful.
They made us, Matt Collins is here, and we work well together. Every time we do compaction tests, we go out there, we make sure the roads are built right, and they rely on me to make sure that I'm holding the contractors to the standard for them, so they know that they're getting what they pay for.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Anything else for you? Thank you, guys.
Next up is a community development report from the director, Mike Martin.
Council will be pretty brief. You have 2 reports actually in front of you, one for December, one for the calendar year. In December, you can see 12 total permits, only 1 for a new home versus 10 new homes permitted December a year ago.
I did.
A little bit of a slowdown in general, I think, with the economy. Hopefully we'll see things pick up a little bit. On an annual basis, you can see, if you look a little below the middle, There are three categories of new homes, residential, new single family townhome, single family accessory dwelling, single family dwelling. This year, there were a total of 90 versus 82 a year ago. So we're up about 10% on new homes. For permits, we were less than 200 a year ago and over 250 this year. So a bigger jump in the overall permits. Again, more COs, almost twice as many COs issued, and quite a few more inspections done as well. Just in general, in the department, you heard Daryl, you were just talking about F Farmettes. Their preliminary plat was approved recently by the Planning Commission. They just got their first final plat in there. They didn't plat everything they're going to be platting in there, but you may see some construction beginning fairly soon on those farmettes that you all approved not long ago, the rezoning. And then the bigger bulk of the work happening there, though, is headed down into Coweta County. They've got an active land development permit for the overlook development that's right on the border with Coweta County. And then they've got some permit plans under review right now for more work down farther down into Coweta County. So we'll be seeing a lot of work happening there pretty soon. And that's gonna involve a lot of Daryl's time as well, I think. We have a planning commission meeting coming up a week from Thursday, so on the 19th, 6:30 p.m. And the only thing I have right now for that agenda is a public hearing on the item that we have first read of at this meeting, which is the proposed changes to the UDC. So that'll be happening a week from Thursday. The first of the public hearings, of course, you all will have a public hearing on the same matter at next month's city council meeting. That's all I have. Any questions?
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.
All right, the next item is a public hearing on approval of ordinance to adopt a revised transfer development rights regulation. Rick, could you please read the public hearing rules for us?
I'm happy to do that, but I don't have any cards for
No,
the one to speak.
Then let's not. Mike, do you want to maybe preface this for us really quickly?
Sure. We've had
I
about
mean,
half a
we've
dozen.
had several meetings on it.
Right, had about a half a dozen meetings talking about this, some joint planning commission session. This is a revision to the transferable development rights ordinance, transfer of development rights ordinance. And it establishes a couple of new things. It provides for a relationship with a plan administrator who can administer some of the money that comes in through the BTC program, which is a program that was also originally in the plan. We've detailed it out a little bit more. But that is an opportunity to transfer development rights by paying to the city to use the money rather than having to go through and negotiate each rights transfer. The negotiated rights transfer, the standard TDR program, still a part of it, still a part of the program. It's the sort of the basis that the whole thing is built on, but DTC program is another option. And then also, probably more importantly, on the back end of that, the PDR program, Purchase of Development Rights Program, that is a set of rules and procedures for spending that money for the plan administrator working with the council to spend those development rights money. So there's some opportunities there to combine those funds with other funding, outside funding, to really leverage it and increase the amount of land that's preserved compared to the straight TDR program. Any questions?
That was a perfect brief overview of that. Thank you very much.
Can we ask my question?
Yeah, of course.
As far as setting the price for the conservatory, am I saying it right? TDRs are bought from the city. We have not done that yet.
Right, that's correct. That's correct. There's not been a price set yet. There's a process written into the ordinance, but that will have to be a separate action to set that DTC price. So with the adoption of this, the TDR program, arm's length free market transactions, those can always take place. The DTC program itself will require another action to set that price.
And it's based on the concept of a percentage of the value, and it's something that the city council will then vote on and set based on metrics that, just a mathematical read of the value of the properties.
So that price will be set before they are sold.
That's correct. Before anyone pays. That's right. That's right. And the as you know, Doug Cloud on Planning Commission with the Conservancy has been working on doing some research on the appropriate ways to set those prices. They've got some work they presented to this group, And they'll be involved in those conversations with council to help everyone understand what's happening as we do that.
Well, and I know there were some meetings. I know on the day I fell, it was a week after that we had the joint session. So, you know, I did miss a fair amount of those meetings. My body and work a little bit more than this, you know, I had to figure out. So anyway, I am behind and I'm still trying to play catch up on this whole TDR thing. And me personally, I'd like to push it off 1 month to give myself time to talk with Mr. Cloud and get a better understanding. Because it seems like he seems to be the person that knows the answer. And, you know, I'm still concerned about some of the, you know, you got 5 acres, you know, 3 of them are consolidated and you actually only can sell 2. And need to understand a little bit more about this. So, and that's on me, you know, so, but I mean, the council can do whatever they want to do. But that's where I'm at, so.
Mike, so is there any pressing issue if we were to,
You can ask whatever you want.
is there any pressing issue if we delay this a month to vote on it? Is
I don't know. I don't know what effect it might have. There's somebody I know is working on an application where GTC or TPRs would be involved. But I assume that would just delay that process for that applicant, if that would even be happening in the next month. I don't know for a fact that it would happen in the next month.
I mean, we still have yet to put together a package to explain to the citizens what all these options are.
That's correct. That's correct.
So
And that is,
I think until
that's
we
right.
get that at least together, so we can start passing stuff.
right.
and make
We plan-
stuff available, we need to know.
There's quite a little bit of public education to be done, not only on the DTCs and TDRs, but other conservation methods as well. We plan on putting together materials about all sorts of conservation methods, some of which have nothing to do with that program. But absolutely, many of them do have to do with that program. So that's absolutely a part of what we're working on. In fact, we've got there's just an email today about some model documents that have been used elsewhere for presenting some of these things through some other conservation organizations. And that's a part of what we're working on.
One of the things that will help us with that process is knowing exactly what our own rules are, right? And that's part of the, you know, reason for getting this done, because then you can put the.
we were in the, this was going to enable us to hire the administrator though, right?
That's right. That's right.
So that would just be delayed a month,
This-
but yeah, okay.
Is a month enough time?
Is enough
I
time?
mean, yes, I'm a pretty quick study, just, you know, I made that one meeting afterwards, and I was chastised for
So we still have a
9
month.
broken bones and even moving, so went back to the house to do what the doctor said. So,
Yeah.
It is what it is, and I take responsibility for that, but you know,
Yeah.
the more I dig into it, the more complex it is. And I don't have that clear understanding. Where I promote the value of people's land.
Well, there's a month, we have a month. then.
So do we need a motion to delay?
We have a month right now before we make the vote.
Motion to defer it for a month.
Yeah.
Can I get a motion in a second, please, to defer this for 1 month?
Make a motion, we defer it for 1 month.
Second.
Have a motion in a second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, so we will do this again next month. Next up are a couple of items of new business. One is a first read, so there's no action on this. And we've already talked at the work session about the fact that we will have opportunities for everybody to get all their questions answered in the appropriate venue. There's not this meeting before we do any action on this. So 23-001, which is an ordinance to revise and amend Appendix A, the UDC. Mike, you want to give us again an overview of that?
I don't know how much detail you want. It's a proposed ordinance that has over 30 text changes. There are quite a few different kinds of text changes in there. Some of them are just typo corrections or reference corrections. Some of them, there are a couple of 3, in fact, 3 new proposed use categories with some rules that go along with them. There are many of them we discussed at some of those joint work sessions, but some of them are new. Again, this is just first read, so anything that you all want to go over, I'd be happy to go over.
My suggestion on those, again, kind of like what we did with the TDR ordinance, is that you reach out to Mike and have your list of questions and let them walk you through all of that. And then, the next work session, if there are some that need everybody's input, great, let's have that conversation.
But if it wouldn't be too much trouble, I would like you to address Mr. Richardson's concern that it might appear that we're changing the UDC just to be able to enable this movie studio. When I was reading through the change that we proposed, what it seemed to me was we already had zoning for a movie studio. We didn't have zoning for a large movie studio. And in my mind, I'm thinking, as things come along that we don't have in our zoning, because we haven't, we don't have a hospital yet. When someone wants a hospital, we're gonna have to make some changes because we can't predict every single thing, but I think maybe that'd be better coming from you to kind of address that, if you could.
Do you want to run through the specifics of each? In general, the idea is that this proposed big movie studio, as I would expect any large movie studio to be, behind a security perimeter. Many of our form controls, many of the regulations as far as how things address the street, how parking lots work and things like that are related to how buildings work together, how communities work, how things can be walkable. Behind that perimeter, it's different, right? You don't have a mix of uses. You don't have residents who are walking. We're not trying to create a community behind there. It's an industrial campus in a way, right? That's a crude way of saying it, but so many of those controls don't have to apply. Now, if they're in a hamlet, anything outside that security perimeter, we still have to live by all the hamlet rules. It's just once you're behind that wall, there's some things that don't matter and can be more difficult for a studio to operate if they have to have those rules about parking lot size and where the parking lot can be in relation to the building, right? Those things matter when you're trying to create a pedestrian friendly community, a place where people interact but in a studio setting, those sorts of things don't matter. Building height was one of the things that was mentioned. We had plenty of discussions about that when the applicant was in here the first time, and it does say, if not visible or a certain distance away from the thoroughfare or the property line, or not visible from the street. And so those are the terms that we had all talked about that first time around. I felt that everyone was pretty happy with those terms. So those got translated directly into that. But that's generally it. It's all about the things that would normally be about creating community or that a neighborhood walkable environment that don't necessarily apply behind that boundary, and that do make a difference for a studio.
Can I just ask a question, Mark? I think the concern I hear from people too is that, when you change these things in the total law, the development code, what would be wrong with having, kind of like what Steve does, it brings an individual thing up here. And if he needs a variance or something, we look at it, and it may take a little longer to look at these 12 things. But I think once we change this whole code, now it opens it up to everybody.
Sure. If there's anything you see,
That's what I'm saying. Maybe I'm not comfortable with that. Maybe I'm more comfortable with dog walking each project. And like you said, let's look at each phase of it. Maybe some of it we want, maybe some of it we don't. Because you know what, this is our city.
Right. That's certainly an acceptable way to approach it. The mechanism we have for those things is the variance process,
Correct.
which has a very specific set of rules. When these in that section, when those were written, the expectation was that those would be acceptable to apply in any large studio situation. If you disagree about that, we should certainly be talking about that.
And to be clear, it's still a special use permit for a studio.
That's right.
And the council still has the absolute authority to say whether or not this one is in the best interest of the city. What Mike is doing here is trying to align, what that special use permit looks like with the reality of studios. And again, talking specifically about those things is absolutely appropriate. And the council still has absolute control over whether or not it can happen. You're not saying, oh, by the way, you can just do this thing. So,
No, that's correct. And I get that. And I appreciate that. I'm just saying, when we change it all at once it's there, if the permit fits that, it does. We can't tell them no, but there may be some things in there that maybe we don't like. But what's wrong with taking it piece by piece? And we may all like it all. But we don't know. It just perceived that way. to the common person, you know, and I'm gonna say, I mean, we spent what, 80, 90 grand or whatever, and we do make a lot of changes here and there. But that's a ton. That's 32 changes in one whack to accommodate one setup.
And again, my suggestion to everybody is go through with Mike. Those changes, you'll find that, you know, the ones that are typos, I don't think anybody's gonna have a problem with, right? And there are some that are more meaningful that you may or may not want to approve the change, right? And at the end, we may take 28 of the 32 or whatever, based on those conversations. That's how this works, for sure.
Well, yeah, I just think that it promotes better communication, promotes better understanding, even if it takes a minute. It's like when some new people hop on the council and they, you know, you look at a lot of the budget, you don't have any idea what's listed in there. You know, until somebody takes time out. And I think that would perceive better to the public rather than, you know, here's a blanket PO, and he pays 33 through 34. Come on with the application, because that's, you know, whether we don't want to admit it or not, that's the way it looks.
So I will say specific to this and this application, we of course have been talking to the applicant and looked at the list of things that would have to happen in order for them to get approved. And they certainly were by no means all incorporated into this set of changes. They have a raft of variances they will be applying, they have applied for as well. So these were the ones that seemed to apply universally, right? Where any sort of similar type of development, it would be appropriate for that. But not all of them were. They have other things that are coming in through the variance process that it didn't seem appropriate to start to say anyone, we would want this to apply to anyone. So it wasn't that they just came in with a list of things that didn't fit and we said, oh, let's just make them fit. That didn't happen at all. We picked the ones that.
No, and I get, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm simply saying is by dog walking each one of them, at least everybody here understands, we might explain it to people, the developer understands, and you know what, to build this whole thing out, it's gonna be what, a 20-year project anyway. So I'm not in a rush.
So again, in a special use permit, we will dog walk every single project through individually, every detail. Anyway, that's the way that our process works. 1, 2, on these sorts of things, where you've got a list of changes. The idea is you do a first read, and between now and the next time, you talk to staff and make sure that you're clear on the questions that you've got. And then we will have a work session on the ones that are not the obvious typos, and everybody says, yes, obviously that's fine. If there are ones that people want to talk about, we will talk all of us together in great depth about those. And at the end, we will decide that these are fine, these are not, whatever, these need to be changed, these we want to push off till some other date and all of that. That's how our process works, very transparently, right? It's incumbent on us to do the work in between now and then to have those questions answered, right?
So
And
the big answer to Mr. Richardson's question is who is behind the changes that you can see is really the oncoming application of the movie that they're or move studio.
that's
No,
one of the 32.
one of the 32, right? That yeah, I worked on those based on what I saw.
So that list is, if it's one of 32, then that conversation could take hours.
Some of them are edits,
That's
right?
right, they do sometimes take hours, these conversations.
So this might need to go a little slow. Either way.
No, the process will define how, yes, as always, right?
Now,
That's how we do it.
just as a point of information, Mike, just for my curiosity, and I know this might be more suitable for a different format, but just out of curiosity for myself. This latest application, does it seem to include, or does it include a lot of housing with it?
No, the studio, right? There is some housing. That was one of the variances, is to be allowed to do it without the housing. There is some housing in there intended for, not for the public, but for actors coming in from California, that kind of thing. I think, if I remember correctly, it's like 3 dozen units. I think a couple dozen is like it's as single family, and then a dozen or so.
Okay,
I don't know about.
so that's what that is now,
Yeah,
okay.
right, right.
All
But
right.
those are like rental units for actors. or
Basically, yeah, that's
whatever.
right, that's right. So it's right, and the stuff is longer term use than what would be lodging, because there are several month projects, right? So it still counts as housing.
Just as a reminder about that project too, right? That project has come in with their initial application to trigger the development of regional impact review, which it is off doing now. At some point, we'll get feedback from the DRI process. They'll say, we recommend that they do these things with the roads and whatever. And then we will have the robust conversation about whether or not it makes sense in our community to have. And which one of the recommendations from GDOT or whoever we're gonna require, if it does make sense, and all of that. All public meetings and all our normal process. There's no hidden backdoor or anything. This is all as transparent as can be.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Next up is 23-002, which is the revision of chapter 28, the hotel motel tax thing. Yeah. Because only people from other places.
So give credit to the ghostwriter, Rick Lindsay, on this one. I did not write this legal document, but I'll give credit to Rick. Yeah, the hotel motel tax, the governor signed this into law for us last year in April. So it became effective, but we couldn't do anything with it yet until we got a Convention of Visitors Bureau board in place. We have that in place now. Still in the process of getting acclimated to their new role and such. So we have meetings coming up and make sure we get a board in place and such. But this tax is going to go from 7%, which we collect right now, to 8%. And 8% also does a couple things: increases the amount that goes to a Convention and Visitors Bureau. What we give now, 32.14% to Atlanta Convention and Visitors Bureau, and that changes that rate to a little over 40% to our Convention and Visitors Bureau. And that goes directly to that entity. So that's one of the changes. And the other changes, it goes up to 8%. So it goes from 7 to 8. So that's the reason why there's an increase in that funding. And there's still a portion, obviously, that goes to tourism development products. That's mandatory. And another portion that can be transferred to the general fund for whatever use that the mayor and council deem appropriate. And so this, we talked about it in the work session. It was in the ordinance, we talked about being March 1st, but we have a lot of, it's not just hotels. Hotels could mean anything. It could mean short-term rental, could mean Airbnb, mean an inn, whatever. So we have to make sure they understand that they've got to increase those rates. So when the guests stay, they're paying that 8%, not 7%. And we want to extend that to April 1st as far as implementation date. So I think that covers it for the most part. I mean, there's not more to it, but that's just what this ordinance is in place to allow us to go ahead and start collecting that.
Any questions about that? We'll get Robbie standing there.
Appreciate your work on that, Robbie. That's a good thing for us.
Yeah, it's a great thing. And the CVB is going to be awesome. It's going to help a lot. So.
If not, then let me get a motion in a second, please, to adopt 23-002, which is the ordinance to revise and amend the hotel motel tax ordinance.
And when the motion is made, Mr. Mayor, we'll make sure it's amended to April 1 as opposed to March 1.
Thank you. That's right. So let me get a motion in a second, please, for 23-002 as amended. This is the ordinance to revise and amend chapter 28, the hotel motel tax ordinance, with the effective date changed from what you've got in your book from March 1st to April 1st, because it's going to take that long to actually get all the stuff done and make it happen. So can I get a motion in a second as amended?
Make a motion to accept item 23-02 as amended.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion about this one? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That carries unanimously. Next up, and we'll go ahead and, no, we'll do these separately. 23-003, which is the resolution to appoint a municipal superintendent of the city of Chattahoochee Hills, our own Dana Witcher.
So by state law, actually, these next two resolutions are required by February 1st that they're adopted. And item 23-003 is naming the city clerk, myself, as the municipal election superintendent.
So can I get a motion in a second to do just that? Adopt 23-003.
Make a motion that we adopt 23-003.
We have a motion in a second. All those in favor of adopting 23-03, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Congratulations. Next up is 23-004, which is the resolution setting qualifying fees for the next election.
Yes, this resolution also is required by state law, and we are required to set the qualifying fee at 3% of the salary of whatever position is coming up for election. This year we've got council districts 1, 3, and 5. And last year, the council voted to increase the salaries. And the council salaries were increased to $3,600 per year, so they will take effect for those districts after this next election. 3% of that is $108, so that will be the qualify.
And there's no optionality here, so can we get a motion in a second, please, to adopt 23-004?
Make a motion to adopt 23-004.
We have a motion in a second. All those in favor of adopting 23-004, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That is done. Next up is mayor and council comments, and I will start with Troy tonight. Troy?
Really don't have anything to say, Mayor. Thank you.
Camille?
Yeah, Chief Brett, thanks for the gas leak and then coming out and addressing that and then sending the Everbridge text out, which I really think is so valuable. And along with that, you gave instructions about what to do, sort of course of action for residents, which is like how far do you stay away, all the things. So it's super helpful if you haven't signed up for that text alert to sign up and get that to the fire department.
The link for that is on the city webpage.
Do it before Thursday.
And
Storms.
yes, please do sign up if you haven't already.
Do it before Thursday. Bad weather coming Thursday.
Yeah.
Lori?
Daryl to be in our city hall.
No, I just wanted to thank Robbie for, over the holiday break, dealing with the water at City Hall and then and the illnesses with your staff. I know that's hard when you're on vacation and you're always there for us. All you guys are. Thank you.
Richard?
Yeah, first of all, the obvious, congratulations to the Georgia Bulldogs.
Go dogs.
For pumping a free pain stain.
Yes, sir.
TCM. Yeah, no charge. Hope they enjoyed that. Anyway, yeah, I appreciate the council too. Give me about a month to play catch up. Yeah, it is what it is, but you went through our work too. Believe me, it's been the last thing on your list of things you had to do. But yeah, I do appreciate that. And I'm glad a lot of the city folks have gotten well. And I agree with Camille that I've been signed up on that little notification thing for a while now, and it really is great. If you hunt, you live by it. So it's great. I really do appreciate it.
I hate to send them out at 5 a.m., but.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
No,
You love it.
love it. You love it.
Wake Robbie up.
I know about 6:30 looks like.
We're at 4:15 anyway.
Okay, first of all, I want to say thank you to the commission and your team for responding to any emails or anything when I called, actually come out to the event. You came out to the Bear Creek event and you're here tonight, and I appreciate that. Thank you so very much. And also I want to thank the staff for all that you do as well. Last year in 2022, we had 4 events, and we had the movie night, Memorial Day, the Fall Festival, and Christmas in Chattahoochee. And I want to thank all our sponsor, our volunteer, city staff for all the work that they did. So this year we'll be back, 2023. We're planning a movie night, but this time Camille is going to take the lead on that. We'll still do the Fall Festival and the tree lighting. We're going to try to work a little bit more with senior services, maybe do a quarterly meal to kind of get to know some of the seniors in the city. And another thing that I would like to do this year is to do a community appreciation award. So we'll be working on that as well. And that's all I have on.
55.
Thanks, Ruby. I also want to thank the commissioner and his team for being here tonight. Appreciate your support. Appreciate the fact that you stayed for the whole meeting. That's not everybody who comes and presents does that. So thanks for that. And I appreciate your help in advance, getting our senior services money and all the other good things you're going to help us with. We are in the midst of a redistricting process, happens every 10 years after the census. We have hired an outside expert who does redistricting to actually do the work on that. And I promise you, it is a hard thing to do too, because I didn't like the way the map looked the first time I had it and got all the numbers from it. Spent a few hours trying to make it look better and could not. The key is that you have to come up with districts that are all the same size. And also that are not changing communities too much so that people stay in, same population, sorry. And the goal too is to keep the elected officials in their own districts. Now, it doesn't always work that way, as Commissioner Arrington is evidence of. Because in their redistricting, suddenly it's new districts and people run into different places. But luckily, we were able to avoid that. We are going to have a meeting, though, public meeting on that. You can see kind of where those boundaries are. They are shifting around a little bit. That will be on the 17th at 6 o'clock in the evening. City attorney will be there. I think the expert will be there as well, right? They can answer any questions you have.
If he can't be here, he's gonna be on Zoom. So
Okay.
we'll have, he's here.
At 6 o'clock on the 17th, which is next Tuesday, right?
Yes, Tuesday night,
Um,
Parks Commission.
And again, it is what it is, to quote Richie, but it's one of those things that it's good to know kind of how the process works and all that. And anybody who's interested in
We
that
just
should
set the
come.
date today.
I wanted to thank Darren Jaffe, who's not here, for coming out during our work session and talking about some of the work that they're doing on farmland, not just preservation, because we know that farmland right now generally is, 75-year-old folks who really want to protect the land, keeping it going in their retirement. Not a lot of younger folks actually wanting to step into that as a life goal. And there's some real work going on right now in the community about trying to find ways to keep some of that farming activity here and actually promote new farming activity as a part of the preservation that we're doing. So that it's not just pretty land that you're driving by, but it's also productive and productive long-term. And again, a lot of work going on in that. Richie brought up the thing, and we've been talking quite a bit about this lately. The TDR and DTC ordinance is only one piece of the different conservation activities that are going on in the city. Everything from current use to, conservation easements and the tax benefits that come from those, and just a layer of multiple layers of things that you can do. And we are right now working on compiling kind of the, what all the things are in Chattahoochee Hills that people can participate in, so that it's easy for people to know, here's what I can do on my property. And here are the different layers of things. So that is something that there's a lot of work going into, and I just want to call out some of the people that were working on that. And that was it for me. Thanks for coming. We have adjournment next. Can I get a motion in a second to adjourn the regular meeting?
Make a motion, we adjourn the regular meeting.
We have a motion in a second. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. So we're standing adjourned at 7:15. We always end the meeting with the town hall session, which is a time that you can ask general questions of staff and elected officials for issues that were not otherwise covered tonight. The other thing too is if you've got something specific about, a parcel that you own or building you're wanting to build or whatever, the experts are right here. I don't know, your barn burned down last week and you want to tell Greg how awesome he is, he's here. That doesn't necessarily need group conversation. If anybody has anything, we're here. And it's not the right time, back row, to be waving just generally while you're talking, because I'm gonna call on you, back row. All right, if not, we will see you all next month. Thanks very much for coming.
Or next Tuesday. Next Tuesday.